why don't we start off with Kim Davis? Because for some reason, she is still in the news, even though it's not 2015 anymore. But she's in the news for a glorious reason, which is she lost another court battle somehow. I didn't know she still had court battles to lose, but she's still losing over and over. And it makes my heart grow every single time it happens. This is the headline from the Associated Press. A former clerk who refused to issue marriage licenses must pay $260,000 in fees and costs, a judge rules. And I want to explain to you where that amount is coming from, why it's happening now, because it's so much fun when you actually hear the full story. So let me back up for a second, because I know I'm going to post this clip at some point online. And if you were not following this story over the many, many years it has been going on, Kim Davis is the evangelical Christian who used to be the clerk, the county clerk in Rowan County, Kentucky. And in 2015, just after the Obergefell ruling came down from the Supreme Court and same sex marriage was legal nationwide, gay couples would come to her office and say, "We want a marriage license," because they had a right to it at that point in Kentucky. And she said basically, "No, I'm a Christian. I will not sign your marriage certificate," even though she only has one job, basically, and it's to sign marriage certificates. And so she was blocking the civil rights of these people. And she did it because she said she was Christian and she thought that granted her some sort of immunity from doing her job. So, long story short, and it is a very long story, a couple of those gay couples sued. And they said, "You can't get in the way of our civil rights like that." In one of those cases, a jury actually did not rule in the couple's favor. I'm not sure why, but that is the way juries work. Sometimes they just didn't see the evidence that it was something illegal. But, and this is where we get to today's story, the other same sex couple that sued, they won their case. Actually, last year, U.S. District Judge David Bunning ruled that she broke the law when she refused to sign their wedding license, marriage license, on account of her Christian bigotry. So then, after that judge said she broke the law, the question before a jury last year was, well, how much damage, how much money should the gay couple get in damages? And basically, the two men received $50,000 each. That's what a jury ruled. They said each of those men who had their civil rights denied, Kim Davis owed them $50,000 apiece. Liberty Counsel, the right-wing group that represented Kim Davis, they argued, hey, she has qualified immunity. You can't sue her. She's a government official. And the jury's like, no. We're relying on the Supreme Court verdict of fuck around and find out. And she's about to find out that she does not have qualified immunity. Liberty Counsel said they would appeal that decision, and that went nowhere because Kim Davis broke the law. Okay, so that's where we were at the end of last year. The gay couple won. This case is over. We're finally done hearing about Kim Davis, right? But no, not just because they were appealing this thing for all of eternity. It's because there was something that had not been worked out, which is now that Kim Davis has lost, not only does she owe those men $50,000 each, her side owes their lawyers a lot of money because you made those guys' lawyers have to do all this work. And every time you appeal the ruling, they got to do more work. And this has been going on for years. So the question is, how much money does Kim Davis' side owe the lawyers? We already know they do. The question is how much. Now, the gay men's lawyers, and there's a bunch of them, basically, I'm going to quote to you what they said. They said, we want $246.26 in attorney's fees and $14,058.30 in expenses because we had to do a lot of work over many years. Kim Davis's team tried to say, we're going to give you $100,000, no more. So this is the question. Do they get like $260,000 or do they get $100,000? And this is the argument that both sides put in front of the judge. And this is where it gets really amusing, because I'm going to show you some of the stuff this judge wrote, because you could tell he's so done with Kim Davis at this point. All right. So check this out. This is the beginning of his ruling in this case. And listen to what he says right here. The procedural history of this case is well documented in the record, and the court need not reiterate it in detail here. I'm not going to tell you what happened over the past 9 years. But then he says, in sum, following extensive discovery, multiple motions, dispositive and otherwise, 4 appeals to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, 1 petition for a writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court, and a 3-day jury trial, this case is on the eve of final resolution. 1 issue remains: attorney's fees and expenses. This judge is like, you guys have put me through so much. I just want to be done with this. We are so close. Can we please finish this up already? Which I love the subtle shade there. The bottom line, though, is that the judge says throughout this ruling that the requests that the plaintiff's lawyers have made for costs, the gay men's lawyers have made for all these costs, he basically says they're all reasonable. He actually says in this ruling he's not going to, quote, engage in micro litigation, nor is he, quote, inclined to split hairs. He says, I'm not here to say, that this request was too much or too little or whatever. His job, he says, is to say, does this sound about right for what lawyers have to do in cases like these? And he boils down to, yeah, it all seems pretty reasonable. And sometimes when Kim Davis's lawyers tried to fight that, the judge let them have it. Here's one example of that. I'll show you this right here. Okay, look at this top paragraph first. Plaintiffs were represented in this matter by a couple of lawyers, yada, yada, yada. Plaintiffs seek an award based upon a rate of $375 an hour for one lawyer and $275 for another. Kim Davis's lawyer says no, they object to these rates. They want to reduce it to $350 and $250 because that's what those lawyers said they cost years ago. What does the judge say about all that? The court finds that the rates sought by plaintiffs are reasonable. The court is not inclined to reduce these rates based upon what was found to the prevailing market rates 6 years ago. He bold-faced 6 years ago. In short, he's saying, yeah, they did request a lower rate 6 years ago, but also a lot of time has passed. And it makes sense that they would ask more now because of inflation, because of other issues. Like, I'm not going to go after them and give you credit because they asked for a lower amount years ago. Like, the judge is just not taking any of Kim Davis's lawyers' arguments. You know what I mean? And the bottom line is when he goes through all the complaints that Kim Davis's side is making, he doesn't want to give them any leeway. And here is what it comes down to at the very end. Let me show you this. This is at the very end of the document. Plaintiffs are awarded every penny they wanted in attorney's fees, and they were awarded every penny they wanted in expenses. That's it. That's where the $260-ish thousand lawyers' fees and expenses are coming from, because this judge is like, yeah, they want it, they will get it, because nothing in here seems weird. They had to work a lot. I think one of my favorite response, like, if you were asking yourself, what is Kim Davis's attorneys going to do about this? They're not just going to say, well, okay, I guess we lost this case, because they've never done that repeatedly over the past several years, even though they've repeatedly lost the case. Every time they have lost, they just said, well, you're not the final word. We're going to ask our buddies at a higher court. And then the higher court's like, yeah, dog, you lost. And they're like, well, we're going to ask the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court's like, yeah, I know who we are, but we're also not going to handle this because this isn't even like remotely controversial. This isn't on the fence. She just broke the law. Like, no one wanted to deal with their shit. So after this ruling came down that they now owe all these legal fees, what did Liberty Counsel say after all this? Oh, yes, you guessed it. Kim Davis will ask court to reverse the verdict yet again. And this is what they say here. This latest judgment now allows Liberty Counsel to ask the court to reverse the jury's verdict against Davis because there was insufficient evidence to award the plaintiffs monetary damage if the appeal is denied. Liberty Counsel will then appeal the case to the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeal. Whatever. They're complaining about it again. That's the bottom line here. They think they're going to take this up to a higher court and then they won't have to pay anything. Here's what I think is actually happening, though. Liberty Counsel is one of those right wing legal groups where they only hire the worst attorneys they can find because they're not interested in the smart ones. The smart ones would never work for a group like Liberty Counsel. The reason Liberty Counsel is like, we're going to appeal this is because they keep sending out fundraising messages to their followers, their base, their members, saying, you guys, this liberal court ruled against us again, so give us money so we can keep fighting this. And that's it. It doesn't matter how strong their legal case is. It's not strong. They have no case. They just need to keep like milking this cash cow that is Kim Davis. And so they're not going to stop anytime soon. They're going to take their fans for all they are worth. And that's what they're doing here too. Look, it's not like they're going to have a hard time coming up with this money. I don't think Kim Davis is especially wealthy on her own, but it would be very easy for her to start up like the Give, Send, Go, GoFundMe type of page where she's like, you guys, I'm a Christian martyr. Remember me with the hair? Give me money so I can fight back and I need to raise this because they're persecuting me. I have no doubt she could do that and she could raise all the money she needs in a heartbeat. The issue here isn't the money. The issue is that Liberty Counsel cannot let this case go because it's been their baby for like 9 years. So they're just going to keep fighting it until they literally cannot anymore. The one thing I do appreciate about this case being in the news again this week is it gives us a chance to talk about Kim Davis again and how much of a hypocrite she is. Because remember, her whole reason that she would not sign these same-sex marriage licenses is because she wanted to preserve the sanctity of marriage, and gay people cannot do that. Jesus hated the gays. But remember, what is Kim Davis's personal life like? Let me remind you. I'm just going to quote this directly from myself here. She is a woman who, in chronological order, married husband 1, had twins with husband 3, divorced husband 1, married husband 2, divorced husband 2, married husband 3, divorced husband 3, and then remarried husband 2. That's what Kim Davis did. That's apparently what Jesus wanted. And when people pointed that out to her, as many people did over the years, she's like, well, none of that counts because, quote, God still wasn't in the picture because she wasn't born again until she remarried husband 2. Something like that. Like she didn't find Jesus until 2011, you see. So nothing that happened before then should count. And how dare you use any of that against her? She actually wrote in her memoir, she wrote a memoir, that the whole hypocrisy charge was divine irony because basically her argument was, look, God took a woman married 4 times and used her to defend marriage against the gays. And isn't that so mysterious of him? That was basically what her book was. So I don't know. I don't know why she's stuck with Liberty Counsel. Not good lawyers. But they fumble the ball every single time and then keep fundraising off of her name. I don't think she sees any pennies of any of this. But whatever. She likes being used by these people and she keeps losing. And she is forever going to be a punchline for the rest of us. Uh, Not because of how she looks, because I don't think that's fair to go after her for that, but because she's fighting this awful case and thinking that her bigotry somehow makes her valid, makes her complaint valid. And it's not. It's just Christian hate. And so if she thinks that's what she's going to be known for the rest of her life. which is a hell of a way to leave a legacy. But that's the decision she made. She stuck by it for 9 years. She hasn't changed one bit. I haven't seen her make any statements in response to any of this. She's kind of gone quiet for the past few years, as far as I can tell. But good. Let her lawyers speak for her because they're awful and they keep losing. So that's where Kim Davis is at.